and I want to thank everybody on behalf of the Board of Directors. I am Jerry Eggers, Chairman of the Board of Directors of East Hill Cemetery. There's a lot of work that has gone into making the cemetery look nice all the time, but especially for this occasion today. And we thank you for coming, and we have a program here that I think will be interesting to you, and some very important things that are going on now, and some future plans as well. So thank you for coming. I would like to introduce Dawn Sullins over here. She's got a camera. She also has a clipboard, and we have a mailing list, a newsletter, and things going out. And if you would like to be a part of that, we'd certainly like to have the information with your name, address, phone number, email, whatever you want to give us, and we can keep you informed of things that are going on. But again, thank you for coming this morning, and we have a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you today thanking you for the blessings that you have given us this day, that we can be here for this celebration. We're thankful for the history that has led us up to this point. We thank you for those who were willing to fight for you and for our country, and many of them had to give their lives that we might enjoy the freedoms that we have, especially with this ceremony today. So for all the many blessings you have given us in the past, and for the way that you're blessing at this time, and we know your future blessings, we just praise you and honor and glorify your name this day. Thank you for these who have come for this ceremony, for everyone that has had a part in getting ready for this, and we just pray that you would bless throughout the morning, and we'll thank and praise you for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And Pappy Hawthorne now will take over the program.
Well, Mike, Jerry, I want to thank all of you for being here and explain to you what the little procedure is going to be. We have the dedication here of our wonderful marker, which I am thrilled to death to see here. When at the close of it, we've asked everybody to gradually mosey all the way to the top of the hill where the field of honor and the Confederate unknown are buried for the regular memorial service. You take your time and walk up the hill, and you know, I think it's very appropriate because in the days when they had the decoration days, when they used to decorate the soldiers' graves, they had to walk a long hill to get up here because there wasn't any roads, so maybe it's appropriate. To start with, our program here this morning is going to be in 3 parts. In order to give you an idea of where we're at, we're going to ask James Francis here to give us a short history of the cemetery. And when he gets done, then Phil's going to kind of give you an idea of where we hope we're headed in the future. And then we're going to turn it over to the 2 main people who are standing over here on the other side to carry on from there. So James, if you would tell us about the cemetery.
Well, this is written by Bud Phillips, so I can't take full credit for this. I'm just sort of reading it. The hill or knob on which the oldest part of this cemetery is located has been known as Maryland Hill, Round Hill, Rooster Hill, and finally is East Hill. Colonel Samuel E. Goodson, who long owned the hill, had originally planned to erect a grand mansion here overlooking the town of Bristol. This palatial home was to be an exact copy of the Magnolias, the grand home of Dr. William Alfred Sykes in Aberdeen, Mississippi. That fine mansion yet stands and now houses the Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce. But circumstances developed that caused him to cancel his plan. Soon afterwards, he decided to lay off an area there to be used as a town cemetery. Though he never did this, his stated intention and permission caused several burials to be made there before the beginning of the Civil War. These included a few slave graves. During the war, several soldiers who died in the local Confederate medical facilities were buried there. This created the first real enlargement of the proposed cemetery site. There was a cemetery near downtown Bristol, but it was just an oversized family burial ground. It was very evident that it could not serve as a town cemetery. So burials continued to be made on East Hill. Still, Colonel Goodson did not proceed to make a cemetery deed. However, on May 22nd, 1868, he sold a 2-acre tract, including the burials that had already been made, to L.F. Johnson. Mr. Johnson then deeded the tract to the Ladies' Memorial Association to be used as a town cemetery. Expansion of the original tract soon began, and through the passing of years, it continued to expand until it reached its present size of 17.2 acres. There are almost 4,000 known persons buried here, and there is evidence that many unknowns are also here. Up until the early 1920s, it was the principal burial ground for the city of Bristol. This cemetery has not always been known by its present name. At first it was called the Round Hill Cemetery. Then when Bristol could barely be called a town, the cemetery began to be known as the City Cemetery. By the 1890s it was being called by its present name. This change seems to have been made popular by popular usage rather than by definite official act. Since the beginning, the condition of this cemetery has varied from jungle-like to good to fair and finally to the park-like condition it is in today. Every effort is being made to maintain this long-desired condition. What has long been one of the most historic places in Bristol has now been given national recognition. It appears that this place now has a bright and promising future. May we all work toward that goal.
And maintain all of the monuments in the cemetery, or at least try to. I'd like to tell you all today about the future of the cemetery. And just 3 days ago, our board of directors met, and we have decided to do something that among historic cemeteries in the area is unprecedented. We're going to partner with Newcom Technologies of Des Moines, Iowa, and we are officially going to map this entire cemetery and have it on a database. And that is something that I know of no other historic cemetery in this area has. So another reason East Hill is going to lead the way and be the first to do this. Second thing we're going to do is partner with the Chicora Foundation of Columbia, South Carolina, in assistance to maintaining some of the headstones that you see all the way down from this end all the way to the Confederate graves. We have several monuments that, of course, due to time, have deteriorated and need some repair or just general issues in the cemetery that we cannot do on our own. And Chicora is willing to help us do this, and I think we will form a huge partnership with them, and hopefully you will see them up here for years to come. One other thing I'd like to say is that over the past year we have removed debris, we have dug up headstones that have been covered up due to time. In fact, we've dug up almost approximately 150. And these are names that were unknown, but now have new meaning. They can see again from the ground, and that is the main goal in this cemetery. We do not want any unknowns, but obviously we cannot do that. But under Jerry's leadership and help from the board, we have done this over the past year, and hopefully we will keep doing this as long as we can and keep discovering new people. But another thing is we cannot do this without you. And I know it's odd to say, but this cemetery is not the board of directors. It is your cemetery. We maintain the cemetery. We try to be good stewards, and we are involved in its day-to-day operation. But as James said and as Jerry said, this is not ours, it is yours. So we are going to pass around a clipboard and a sign-up sheet, and hopefully, please put your name on that, please put any contact information, and you'll be put on the list to receive our newsletter, and we want to keep you informed of what's going on in the cemetery, because like I said, it's your cemetery. But I'll turn things over to Mr. Powers now.
Thank you. Once again, I would like to thank all of you for being here for this dedication. I want to introduce our lady friend from Nashville, who is with the tourist department down there. So I will let Lee Curtis continue and tell you more about it.
All righty. It is a beautiful day here in Bristol, and of course I have to say Tennessee. I know we're Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia, but in Bristol, Tennessee, it's a beautiful day here. I understand from Josh there's been a lot of rain up here this week, but God certainly provided a beautiful day for all three dedications. And I want to say, when I first came in contact with, and now, of course, he's Graps to me, too. It started out as Mr. Powers, oh, call me Ez, and before you knew it, he's Graps to me, too. And I said, and everybody at the office said, you call him Graps? I said, I've had so many wonderful conversations with him that, yes, he's Graps to me, too. And that's what I love about this job. You get to really know the people and their passions. And when he heard about the Civil War Trails program that actually started in Virginia about 18 years ago after the Ken Burns series, they realized they didn't have a cohesive program that took the visitors to not just the sites of the major battles. You know, it took me a while in Tennessee when I was learning about this program. I said, well, how many times can you mark, you know, all the places that we know about, you know, with the Civil War? And Mitch Bowman from Virginia said, that's my point. There are so many lesser known sites that our people in communities drive by every day, that our locals and residents that we drive by every day, and sometimes they feel because there wasn't a major battle in my town, well, we didn't have anything to do with the Civil War. And that's not true, because every county in Tennessee was affected, and every state here in our nation was affected. It shaped America's history. But in Tennessee, Congress has designated Tennessee, and they did this several years ago, Congress designated Tennessee as a national heritage area for the Civil War. And they did that because they realized every county was affected. It is the only national heritage area ever designated by Congress to encompass an entire state. And it is also the only one with this topic. So Mitch Bowman started talking to us. He said, we've got Virginia on board. It was in Maryland. You might have seen these signs when you travel through Virginia, Maryland, to North Carolina, West Virginia, and finally through a transportation enhancement grant program with then Governor Bredesen and then Governor Haslam, who made sure last year, before federal money, you know, a lot of grants came to a close, he made sure that we got the full amount to carry us through the sesquicentennial, to make sure that every county had a chance and every town and community had a chance to have one of these markers. So we thanked our governor and TDOT, because it's a transportation enhancement grant program with an 80-20 match. So back to Graps here. He was calling me. He found out about this program, and he knew that this cemetery had a lot to say. And maybe all those Confederate soldiers and Union soldiers and African American slaves, unknowns that are buried here, they can't speak now, but you've got a historical society that can and does. And he said, well, we really want to be a part of this program. And believe it or not, you know, cemeteries, and I know, you know, being from the tourist department, you think, wow, is this a tourist attraction? What we're finding is that heritage travelers, you know, many travelers, when we go to Savannah or Charleston, do you know the number one thing that people love to do are the cemetery tours? They want to learn about the past. And when Grabs brought me up here and several of the other members of the Historical Society, and I've got our picture somewhere, it's in my office, it's one of my favorite pictures, and me and Grabs and the boys, and when they took me through here, I felt like, you know, I've been in the tourism department. Yes, we promote the Bristol Motor Speedway. I work with Matt Bolas and Jennifer over at the Bristol CVB. You know, there are a lot of the music birthplace here. There's so many things, great things about Bristol, you know, from exciting, but then, you know, I was telling the CVB, but once I came here, after being on that tourist side for many years, I got a brand new perspective, but an older perspective. It was like the people of Bristol were speaking as you walk by, and Graps and the others, and the historian would say, and here's so-and-so, and here's this family, and here's the doctor who mourned so when his daughter died before she married. He died soon after, right up there on the hill. I can't remember that doctor's name, but I felt like I got to know the townspeople. Then when we got around to the Confederate, Union, the African American slaves, I thought, this is fascinating, this story. And when I did my homework, I realized, of course, with the railroad, this really became a medical hub for many of the soldiers, with hospitals here that were brought in by train to be treated, both Union and Confederate soldiers. It became a hub, and many became buried here if they did not know who they were. So I think it's just wonderful that, you know, we can pay tribute, and that this dedication can be part of the other dedications this weekend here on Memorial Day weekend to kind of commemorate the 150th of these men, both Union and Confederate, who gave their lives for us here. And in this program, Tennessee, not that we're competitive in the tourism and visitors coming in, but this map guide, and now you all are in it, I'm so excited to show you, and you'll be getting plenty of these, and I'm so tickled to see that Graps made sure that you've got this here so that when visitors come through here, we're going to make sure that stays stocked. Well, here it is right up here, Bristol East Hill Cemetery, with all the stars that are dotted across the state, and this program is still growing. They'll be in 95 counties by the end of this next year. We're in 78 now, and you're a part of it. And Tennessee has been the most popular map guide since it was printed in 2010. This new one just came out with East Hill Cemetery on it, and the travelers are coming. They've been to the national battlefields. Tennessee has Shiloh, Chattanooga, Chickamauga, Stones River, Andrew Johnson National Site is not far from here, Fort Donelson. We are embraced with those national battlefields, or when you go to Nashville, people know about Carnton and Carter House. What they are going to learn through this Civil War Trails program and through this marker as they stand here and see and read this, they're going to feel a real sense of place, of history. So this is for your children and their children. So thanks to Graps and that group here, you're going to be able to tell that story along with your other monuments through the years, and these will be here long after we're gone. So we're just very, very excited for this cemetery to be a part of the Civil War Trails program. I noticed you've got the app here, the new guides also on the Civil War Trails. There's a Civil War Trails app. We're going to be many visitors are coming up to Bristol for numerous reasons. But once they find out about this history here, you know, we have many people that come in. Ben Stein, for instance, who came through Franklin not too long ago, and Ben Stein of the, he does the economics, on the news. And most of the younger generation would know him on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but that Ben Stein. He'd come through Nashville 2 years ago, and he called us. He was coming in for a conference, and he called our office because he found out that Tennessee was in the Civil War Trails program, always wanted to go to Franklin. He's a history buff. He's a Civil War buff. He had a great ancestor who was fought in the Confederate Army, and he wanted to learn more about it. When he left Franklin, he wrote them a big check and gave it to their historical society to be preserved for a more Civil War battlefield. People are going to come through. You don't know what their passion is. But once he came through and he visited Carnton and he saw the cemetery, he left Franklin, but he left them a check. He doesn't live in Tennessee. He didn't have relatives there. But for this amazing war between the states, Civil War, whatever it means to everyone and your heritage, he wanted to help preserve that story. There are many people that want to help do that, but we've got to get in here to appreciate the history, and then they will spend more money in your town. So this is a great program to be a part of, and thanks to Ez Powers, Graps, and all the many other names, Josh, everything that you all are doing, every one of you, I love what you said, the fact that this is not just for the board, this belongs to you, and we're going to help preserve it. In our Department of Tourist Development, preservation and preserving the past for visitors to come see is so important to us, and we're glad to be here to be a part of it. So I say hats off to you, Graps, for calling us, contacting us, and making sure that this happens. And even when we said, well, gosh, it's a federal program, it's got to have ADA parking, they're tightening up the reins on the compliance for federal issues. Look what we're standing on. He said, I can make this happen. Let me make a few phone calls, because we do everything together here. This happened. I couldn't believe it. I went back to them and I said, no, don't put it downtown with a map saying here's how to get to the cemetery too. They're going to make sure that we get this ADA right. And we had to do the striping over, didn't we? Had to do the striping over because it was on the wrong side. That still didn't make them give up. He said, nope, we want it right here. We want to tell the story on the ground so that you can look at this photograph and you can read about it, and you're standing right here. So it took a lot of effort, and this is a grand, grand day to be here and dedicate this with all of you and Gramps. So thank you again so much.
Thank you, Ms. Curtis. On behalf of the cemetery, we'd certainly like to thank you for this beautiful display. But Ezra is the man that is responsible for this, and without his tireless efforts, it wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Let's give him a big round of applause. We are now on the National Register, and we have plans to have an attractive display over here that will recognize that and do some other things. So as Josh says, we have many future things planned for the cemetery, and we hope that you'll be a part of that. And Pappy, we certainly appreciate you and all of your tireless efforts and all of your group. And I just think this is a wonderful thing that we can come here today. And Ms. Curtis and Ezra, we certainly thank you. Pappy.
Thank you.
I think she probably will agree with me. Maybe his name ought to be Bulldog, because when he gets on something, he
He
don't
didn't
let go.
stop. We had weekly conversations. He never gave up. So this is just a happy day for me. I had to be here. So I can't think of anywhere else. So this is grand. You did it.
Done.
Now Lee has to go back to Nashville.
Yeah, I can't stay with you for the
Can't
other.
stay for all the dedication.
Wish I could.
I sure appreciate her being.
Yes.
Thank you. And
Thank
thank you both for what you've done.
Thank you.
Thrilled to be there.
Thank you.
As we leave here and progress to the top of the hill, I hope each and every one of you will, as you walk along up through the lane, notice throughout the cemetery, we've got all the Confederate graves that are in this cemetery marked with Confederate flags, the American flags, denoting either Union or other veterans who have served at some time or the other. But I think if you just take a minute and notice them, you'll realize how much history we do have here in this cemetery. But that concludes this, and hopefully we'll see all of you at the top of the hill.
Sure. Gramps, I want you in it.
Miss Curtis?
Yes.